I had too much
Hello,
wine
UK
last
Crime
night.
Book Club. We are now live, and I am. Apologies for the technical difficulties, but we're good. We are here, we are good, and we are ready and raring to go. So I'm very excited. I need to calm down. It's not like this is the first time I've spoken to you, Kelly. So, C.L. Taylor, introduce yourself, and I'll have a minute.
Yeah. Well, Sam has a minute. I'm C.L. Taylor, otherwise known as Callie, and I'm the author of 9 Sunday Times best-selling psychological thrillers.
How
And
nice does that feel to say?
I know, very nice, very nice. Each time I write a new one, I love seeing in the front the list of the also by, and it just gets longer with each book, and that's really satisfying. And and 2 young adult thrillers as well.
And I've loved every single one of them, which is no secret because I tell anyone who'll listen. So
I appreciate that.
I was really excited by this one. Tell us about The Guilty Couple. It's a little bit different than your other books.
I'll grab a copy. So yeah, this is a little bit different from my normal psych thrillers because it's a little bit more crime, I would say. It's about a woman called Olivia who's framed by her husband for a crime she didn't commit and sent to prison. She serves 5 years of her term, then she's let out on license, and she sets out to prove her innocence, regain custody of her 12-year-old daughter who she's not seen for 5 years, and get revenge on her husband Dominic, who is the man who set her up. But for the first time in a book, I've got a police character. The point of views in the book are Olivia's, Dominic, the ex-husband, but also Danny, who's a DS, and she's a bent cop who helped Dominic frame Olivia. So Olivia's up against not 2, but 3 villains. The third is a mysterious texter who will hopefully keep you guessing as you try to work out who it is.
Kept me guessing.
I really enjoyed it. It's probably my fastest paced book so far. Like most of us, I've sort of struggled with reading over the last couple of years, COVID brain and all of that. So I thought, right, I'm going to write a book that I wouldn't be able to put down if I was reading it. And so far, so good. Loads of readers have told me they've read it in a day, which means that
I read it in a day.
Yeah, I've achieved my aim. That's everything I wanted.
Yeah, I found a day where I could literally sit. I didn't need to do anything. Everyone was taken care of. Everything was fine. And I was like, right, okay, today's the day. Bye, everyone. See you later. Only come if you bring in snacks and water. That's it. Other than that, off you go. And I barely moved. Yeah, you definitely landed what you were trying to do.
Nice. That's really nice
to hear.
We've got
lots and lots of hellos already. So, hi, Dan, Donna. Somebody's saying they're reading it now, and I'm trying to see who it is on my phone because it says Facebook user. And it's not showing me for some reason. So let's see if I can find it now. No, I'll have another look in a minute. It's not thinking, but if you can pop your names at the end of the comments, if you remember, and I'll see if I can see who it is. So I'm reading The Guilty Couple now. It's bloody brilliant. So that's good. That's always a good start. Alison Willis. Hi, Alison. Loves your books. Now we've talked about this before. I mean, I emailed you after I read Sleep. I try to be you want to be kind of letting the authors know how you feel, but at the same time you don't want to come across like a mad stalker. So, but with Sleep, I remember reading that one and just absolutely being completely in love with it. And I just think you started off with 5 stars and I've got nowhere to go. I can't put them any higher. And it's really frustrating, but you do get some amazing feedback from your readers. Authors, readers, everybody is on the C.L. Taylor fan train, which must just be a wonderful feeling.
It is, but I still worry with every book. I'm like, is this the book that's going to let people down? Is this the book where, they're going to go, I'm not going to buy any more? But I think in a way that pushes you to be better. It's, often you'll see authors quoting for each other saying, so and so just gets better and better. And I think that's hugely driven by fear but also just by that need to write the best book that you can write. And with every book that you write, you learn something. You know, you learned what worked well and what didn't work so well. And then in your next one, you try and overcome any flaws that you're aware of that, you know, that you've maybe done in previous books, but keep the good stuff that everybody loves. I think we're all chasing that fabled perfect novel, you know, where it's as good in the final edit as it was in your head when you came up with the idea. But I know that's never going to happen. It's literally not possible. But we chase it anyway. We just want to write the perfect book for us, you know.
And you kind of not you don't feel like you felt like it was as perfect as the readers have yet. Are you just looking for a certain something that you haven't found yet? And I know that everyone that I've spoken to absolutely loves it. They love all of the books.
Yeah, I think The Guilty Couple is as close to perfect as I've got so far. There's a load of twists and turns in there that really have me banging my head on the desk. How can I make this work with that? How can I get these timelines to match up? How can I have these people in the right place at the right time so it works with this? And when it happened, when it came to me, this is how it works. This is how it all ties together. I was just like, yeah, okay, I'm pleased with this. So, you know, the motivations and whatnot all tie in. And yeah, but, you know, of course, I think, I could be better. You know, I'm not a particularly wordy kind of author. I don't write, you know, lovely similes and metaphors and stuff like that. I just kind of just like to get straight to the action or straight to the dialogue. And then sometimes you read books by other authors and you think, I wish I could be a bit more wordy. But I'm just not. I'm just, you know, pacey page turner writer. So that's what I am, and my readers love that, so that's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Somebody again, it says Facebook user, so I will try and see. I might be able to find it now. Mel Pitman, hi Mel, says she's trying to work out the texter. She thinks she knows, but she's not sure. Obviously, I am not going to say anything about who the texter is. I'm going to give no spoilers. I tend to not talk about anything after kind of the first 5 chapters of the book. I think we can kind of talk about certain bits from the beginning, but then you kind of can't really go into it because that destroys it, and I hate spoilers. But Mel, I thought I guessed it. I did not guess it.
That's good to hear.
I was convinced, and no. No, there were so many things that I thought, you know, the kind of things where you gasp when you're reading.
Yeah.
You gasp out loud, and that was it. So I'm not surprised my family avoided me for the day, actually, when I asked them to while I was reading. It's probably just like gasping and giggling all day.
That's nice to hear. I like a gasp in response to something that I've written.
Laura Hamilton says hi to us both.
Hi, Laura.
She's okay. So she's seen your books, but she must admit she's not read one yet, though. Her Last Holiday is in her TBR.
Cool.
But reading a book in a day does sound like something I do. Now, I'll tell you, Her Last Holiday is so good. What I tend to do, I'm one of your advanced readers.
Yeah.
Which I'm thrilled to bits about, really lucky to be with. And I've loved every book, which is why I've been doing it for a while now. But then, so I got Her Last Holiday sent by the lovely Becky, I believe, sent it. Mm-hmm. And then I've got a copy here that I've bought for somebody else. So I do buy the books as well. So I know not everybody does that, and that's fair enough. You know, it's whatever works for everybody. But maybe we'll do a giveaway with that book.
Oh, good call.
Yeah. So Laura, enjoy. You will love it. Oh, we talked about Her Last Holiday as well, and I loved that. I mean, we could literally sit and go through all of the characters. I won't make you.
Particularly the older books where I probably can't remember.
Yeah, we get so many people who come on and say, "You're asking me about something I wrote 3 years ago, Sam." Not a clue. Don't remember. You'll remember it better than I do. And before we go any further, I'm going to ask what you're working on now. So I know you've literally just released a book, but
yeah, I'm not very far into it. I've got to say, I'm only about 4,500 words in, so really really near the beginning. I've only written chapter 1 and chapter 2. I actually asked for a bit more time for this book because, like I said, I've been writing a book a year, and sometimes 2 a year if I've written the young adult books as well. And I just felt like I needed a bit of breathing space with this book, and also my editor's on maternity leave. So because I've chopped and changed a little bit with editors, this is my editor's 3rd maternity leave, and I've had other editors kind of turn up, do one book and then leave with another job. I really wanted my editor to work on this book. She worked on The Guilty Couple and she did such a good job. She calls herself really pernickety, but pernickety is what you want because she captures all of those little bits that somebody on Amazon will pick up if your editor doesn't. Like, how did they manage to get from there to there in 10 minutes, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I said because Helen's on maternity leave, because I've written a book a year for like 10 years or whatever it is, I'd quite like 18 months to write this one. So yes, I'm taking my time. I've got until January next year to deliver it. So I've set myself the aim of hitting 20,000 words by the end of July, which is a bit tricky because I'm off to Cardiff on Thursday this week for an event, and I'm going to Liverpool Waterstones on Friday for an event. And then in a couple of weeks' time, I've got Harrogate. I'm going to be talking to Lucy Foley on the Saturday, 9 a.m, having a little bit of a conversation, bit of a chat. So it was finding the time to write. But what can I tell you about the book? Because I don't like giving too much away. And also, I'll probably change my mind partway through. Yeah, through writing it. So what I can say is it's another book about women taking control. I think a lot of my psych thrillers were about women who have terrible stuff happen to them and they're reacting to it as it happens, which is great. But having written 8 of those, I was like, I need to sort of up this a little bit and put it in a slightly different look at it slightly differently. So starting with The Guilty Couple, that's a woman who's framed, who tries to take back control. Not going to say what the subject matter is, but it is a group of women who take back control in the new one. And that's all I'll say for now until my editor's read it and I finished the thing and it's all been signed off. I'm just too superstitious to say anything more.
That is fair enough. Alison says the Pretty Perfect to her. She's just bumped The Guilty Couple up the pile now. Alison, come on, get on it.
I appreciate you bumping it up the pile, Alison. Thank you.
Absolutely. Kaz wants to know any plans for more YA novels.
Do you know what? I love writing the YA novels. So I've written 2, The Treatment and The Island, both standalones, both about quite different sort of things. But I loved writing them, and also I write them really fast compared to my adult novels. My novels need anywhere between 4 and 6 months, but the YA novels I can write in 7 to 9 weeks. I mean, they're shorter. They're 70,000 words, and the first draft of The Island was actually only 60,000 words. And I added some more in the edit, and I love them. I love the freedom. I love imagining being a teenager and the things that bother you when you're a teenager, and your hopes and dreams and your fears. So much different from an adult. But even though they're really quick to write, they still take ages with all the editing, all the different editing stages and the publicity and all that kind of stuff. And I just want to put a bit less pressure on myself, writing a book a year is hard enough when you've got like a 10-year-old son and a partner and a very needy dog. So I don't know. I mean, I'd never say never. The Island did really well. It won a couple of national awards, and it went down really well with the age group I wrote it for, like sort of 14 to 16-year-olds. So I feel bad when I'm saying, not yet, but never say never. I bumped into my young adult editor at the HarperCollins party, and she was like, well, if you have another idea, just let us know. So we'll see.
I saw a really nice post that you went and met some children and won an award.
Yeah. I did 2 of those. I went to Dudley where The Island was shortlisted. I didn't win it, but Waterstones sold out. 50 copies they sold, and more kids wanted the book, but there weren't enough to sell. So I was like signing bookmarks and stuff for those that couldn't get their hands on the book. But it was lovely, like the buzz off the kids who have either read the book or really want to read the book, love reading. Because you hear so much about teenagers just, on their phones all the time, they're on TikTok, they're not reading. These kids, there must have been, God, I don't know, well over 100 of them, all loved reading, and that's why they'd read all these books that were shortlisted and voted for them. And then in Portsmouth, that was one where I did win, and it was the same sort of thing. It was just, they were all a little bit, they were a bit sort of closed when I was doing my reading, and all their body language was like this, like, you're not going to impress us. But then afterwards, when they came up to me to get their book signed, they were just full of life and excitement and enthusiasm, which was just lovely.
My kids at the minute have been reading Heartstopper.
Oh,
so
lovely.
I haven't watched it, haven't read it, but they're talking to me about it.
And that's so nice.
It's been a nice way of getting them back into reading, because they've kind of fallen out of it a bit. And I think I kind of blame myself a little bit. We've always been big readers, and I constantly talk about books and authors, and I've probably bored them half to death with it. But now they're finding the way back into it, which is good. It's really hard not to say, go and take that one, you'll read that one.
Yeah, I think you just
on.
have to let them discover it for themselves. Like my friend, she's got teenagers, and I think some of them, well, one of her girls is a massive reader, the others not so much. But they saw, was it Antigone? Was it Madeline Miller? Thirk, and what's the other one on TikTok? So they requested those, went off to Waterstones to get those. I'm pretty certain they've bought Heartstopper as well. Like all the TikTok movement, the book talk movement has made it cool for teenagers to read again, which can't be a bad thing. So, although they are taking up all the spaces in the charts, which is not at all annoying when you've got a book out.
No, not one bit, of course not. But yeah, it's nice. It's nice to see them pick things up. I know I read a lot on my phone as well, so people probably think that I'm on my phone too much, but I've generally got a book on my Kindle app. So it's kind of, that's the one I can move around the house on. If I've got time to sit, I'll sit and read a book. But then it's getting comfortable, isn't it, with a book? That's the thing. Kindle's a lot easier to kind of balance and not as heavy if you drop it on your face, lay in bed, and so not quite as painful.
I love a proper book. I've got a Kindle, but I only really use it for proofreading my own book. What I'll do sometimes is, when I've worked on a chapter, I might, when I'm watching telly later that day, I'll have emailed it to myself, and I'll just flick through on Kindle, or if I've got a bunch of chapters, just to scan them to see how they read. And that's really good, because it looks like a book then when it's on your Kindle, even though it's just your first draft. But I'm very much a hardback or a paperback person, which means my suitcase is really heavy when I go abroad.
I do tend to, like, we had I was saying I worked in a primary school, and we used to talk about the books that we were reading at home, just so that, and obviously couldn't really tell the kids some of the stuff that I was reading, but we talk about the fact that I'd read. And I think one of them at one point was like, you don't really read, you just want us to read. So I grabbed my handbag. I wish I could reach it from here. It's like a hold all, like an overnight bag. It's kind of this I can't even show you how big it is on the camera. And I pulled out 3 books, 2 magazines, and a couple of notebooks. And I was like, this is what I've got going on. I've got to admit, I do prefer reading on the Kindle. Never thought I would, but for me, it's much easier, and it's lighter, and I'm really clumsy. So it's safer.
It is good for bedtime. I think if your partner's already asleep and you're reading, that backlight comes in very useful.
Yeah, definitely. Somebody has said, and I can't see who it is, I'll refresh it and see if I can see. Oh, hi, Brian Caves, who has got, this is A Long Way From Home, one of Brian's books, and it is gorgeous. So that turned up the other day. I don't tell him because he tries to send me things, so I just buy it and then tell him that I bought it. Sam, you know what I'm like and what I write. So which of Kelly's books would either of you recommend for me to read? The darker, the better. I think I always go for sleep first. I think it's part of something to do with the setting and the atmosphere, as well as how fantastic the cast of characters are. I love the whole thing. But The Guilty Couple is fantastic. Her Last Holiday, Strangers. I mean, I'm literally just going through the list, Brian.
I would say if you want the darker the better, go for The Fear. That's probably the darkest book I've ever written. But it's not everybody's cup of tea. The Fear is about a 30-year-old woman who goes back to her hometown to clear her parents' house after they've died. And she happens to stumble across her ex-karate teacher, who basically seduced her as a teen and took her away to France with him. And it was sort of based on that news story about the teacher who did the same with his student. And in the book, you've got the past thread where she's actually a teenager and she's in France with him. That's the really dark bit. And then you've got the modern day where she sees him trying to seduce another teenager, and she decides to step in and stop him. And there, without giving too much away, there's some scenes involving a dog cage in a barn that there was a lot of fun to write in a kind of, I guess it was probably my first sort of revenge novel, but wasn't so much revenge for the sake of revenge, you know, to punish someone, but just to stop someone from doing something terrible. So if you like dark, go for The Fear.
I do love The Fear as well. I can see I'm getting redder and redder. I seem to have hot flushes at tea time. So so I kind of tried covering it up. It doesn't work. I'm kind of getting...
Well, you look fine to me.
And Dan says The Fear is the darkest, in my opinion. It's brilliant. So there you go.
Oh, thanks.
And somebody said, no wonder I've got a bad back dragging around a heavy bag. I don't leave the house for work now. I'm at home, so I don't have to drag it around anymore. I can just have my bookshelves. It's fine. Don't have to carry anything. Somebody's saying, I don't want The Guilty Couple to end. I lost my mojo with health problems, but I've speeded through this. I think that's Mel again. So yeah, it's that thing, isn't it, when you're reading something and you're dying to know what happens, but you know if you race through it, you're going to find out and it's going to be over. And then you've got that kind of book hangover of, what do I do now? Do you feel like that as a writer?
Do I feel like what, reading other people's?
No, with your own. When you're done writing, do you get kind of a book hangover? You know.
Yeah, massively. I don't understand authors who literally finish a book and then they maybe have one day off and then they start writing the next one. I cannot do that, because to me the characters are so real, their lives are so real that I'm just living in it, and they're just still with me for quite a long time afterwards, and it's quite frustrating, really, because you know how you have like a boyfriend and you split up, you just have that ache for ages. You can't let anyone else in because there's a ghost of him or her around you, and it's only when you're properly over them that you can move on and let someone else in. I'm a bit like that with books. Like, my characters are just kind of ghosts for a long time after I've finished, and when I try and come up with a new character for a new book, I can't, because the old characters are so kind of powerful in my head. They're just overwhelming. But it's when they start to die down a little bit, which is why it takes me a couple of months to go from finishing a book to thinking about a new one to plotting a new one before I actually start writing a new one. And then I can start to sort of clear the deck a bit and let the new characters in. But I'd love to be the sort of person who's writing a book, gets another idea, writes it down in a notebook, says, right, as soon as I'm finished, I'm going to write. I can't do it. I just can't do it. And it's really frustrating, but it's just, it's my way of working. So I'll have to put up with it.
That's the thing. If it's been the same way for a long time and that's working for you, then no harm in having a bit of a break. We used to give the kids a brain break at school. We all need one occasionally. got to have that time to switch off, haven't you, and wind down and see the
Yeah.
world again. You must spend a lot
Yeah.
of time sat in your office.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And that's the thing as well, you know, a book that you might speed through of mine in a day. I've sat on my bum in this office for day after day after for months, and then had to do it all over again when I get my edits and stuff. I mean, it's all worth it. Absolutely. But yeah, I do miss my books, and I do miss characters. When I finished Strangers, Ursula was probably the most quirky character that I'd written at that point. And I found her really hard to let go of, because she was just so much fun to write. And I think in every book quite recently, there's been that one character that just sticks with me. In The Guilty Couple, it's Smithy, who, for those watching at home, it's she is Olivia's cellmate. She's a pickpocket, a thief, and they become cellmates. And when Olivia leaves prison, Smithy says that she'll help her get revenge. So a lot of Smithy's kind of skills in breaking into houses and all that sort of thing come in really useful. But she's also really down to earth, and she just tells it like it is. And she was a really fun character to write, and a lot of people said that Smithy was their favorite character, and she just kind of came from nowhere. I hadn't planned her to be the way she was. It was like, there'll be a thief cellmate, but she just came alive all of her own. And I think out of all of my books, The Guilty Couple, without giving away too many spoilers, The Guilty Couple is one book where potentially there could be a follow-up.
Okay, yay.
I'm not saying I'm writing it necessarily, but if this book turns out to be really popular and people start clamoring for a follow-up, I know where it could go, roughly already, and it would be nice to revisit some of the characters as well.
As soon as you said Smithy, my face lit up. I saw myself go, and everyone in the chat is saying, I loved Smith there, smiley face. Somebody's asking if The Guilty Couple is a standalone. Well, it is at the moment, but
yeah, it's absolutely a standalone. I don't have any plans to write a second one, and my editor hasn't said please write a second one. But there was a question I was asked at an event last week, was would you ever consider writing a series? And I said, well, I've never had that opportunity so far, because all of my books are standalones, and basically you put a character through loads of terrible stuff in that book, and at the end there's some kind of resolution. You couldn't really take them and then put them in another awful situation and then another one and another one, because that would just be really pushing the bounds of credibility. But even though everything is all wrapped up at the end of The Guilty Couple, there's no sort of loose threads or anything. There is that room to take some characters forward without saying too much, if I wanted to. But no, it's absolutely a standalone book, and I will probably never write a follow-up. But it's just there in the back of my mind, if maybe.
Do you ever consider sitting down and kind of planning out a series and seeing if you think you could, come up with something that would be sustained for 3, 4, 5, however many books, or are you just very, very happy with your amazing standalones?
I think if I did, it would have to be, the main character would have to not be police, because in order to research The Guilty Couple for DS Danny Anderson, I had to spend a lot of time on Facebook talking to Neil Lancaster. Lovely bloke, author, ex-detective. He was so helpful. Like, a few people have said to me, how can Danny be a DS and work as a personal trainer as well? As if the police have got that much time. Neil told me he knew someone that did that. So, all of these, I can't say anything when I see reviews going, oh my God, as if that would happen. It really happened. Neil knew someone. So anyway, that's me just ranting slightly. But because I wrote from Danny's point of view, I had to get the police stuff right. So that meant asking Neil a lot of questions. It also meant slowing down my writing, because I'd be like, what excuse can I use to get her out of the office? Or what reason might her boss give to pull her into his office for a chat. So I had to ask Neil all of these things, and it kept stopping me. And which, you know, so it was great. I was pleased with it at the end, but I wouldn't write from a police point of view in a series, because then I'd basically just have Neil on speed dial. You know, I can see why a lot of ex-police write series, because they can draw on their experience. So if I did write a series, it would have to be a non-cop character, you know, like maybe Tim Weaver or M.W. Craven. Is his actually? I've not actually read any, but there's not actually a cop, is it? His main character.
Oh yeah.
Oh, he is a cop. He is a cop. Oh, so who's written not a cop and has a series?
Oh, see,
Tim
this is where I
Weaver.
go blank, and I should know this. I will have 15 answers in.
Tim Weaver. Steph Broadrib has done Private Eyes. What's
Anne
it?
Coates has got a journalist called Hannah Weybridge. She's great.
Patricia Cornwell, is that like some forensic something?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it would have to be. Hey.
Kate Bendelow, she's a serving CSI and writes books with a CSI as the lead, so slightly different there.
But it's kind of copish, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it would. I would need to write some kind of every person where I wouldn't have to do too much research, I think. But that kind of limits it a little bit, I think. Like, why would an ordinary person be solving crimes? Well, worked for Miss Marple, I suppose, but
JB Fletcher.
Yeah.
So it
does
work.
Know. Yeah, there's no plan unless something suddenly jumps into my head and like, oh my god, that'd be perfect and quite easy to write. No plans as yet.
We've got a few different suggestions up there. So Andy Barrett is a CSI, again similar to Kate. Well, same as Kate. Michael Robotham, Cyrus Haven, psychologist. Not familiar with
psychologist I could do. I've got a degree in psychology.
There you go. You could do that. Leslie McAvoy writes a psychologist whose name escapes me at the moment, and that's fantastic. Loads and loads of scope for different characters, but it must be tricky because there's so many police procedurals. Everybody wants to do something different. Yes. So it's finding that thing that works for you, isn't it? So psychologist would be a great one. You've been doing a lot of publicity at the minute. You've been, as you were saying, you've got more coming up. You have been everywhere. So where have you been, and where are you going in the coming weeks?
So
Harrogate, obviously, that you're going to be out.
Where was I? I went to last week. I can't believe it was only last week. It felt like a lot longer than last week. I went to Glasgow. Then I went to Edinburgh. Then I went to London, but that was different. That was for the HarperCollins party. Then so this week I'm doing Wednesday evening. I'm doing an online chat with Norfolk Libraries. Then I'm travelling to Cardiff on Thursday to do an event at the libraries. Then I'm travelling to Liverpool on Friday to go to Waterstones, chat to Luca Veste about our books. And then I'm back home. I think I've got a week back at home, and then it's Harrogate. Woohoo! And then later on in the year, I'm going to Chepstow to do an event with Claire McIntosh. I'm doing Bloody Scotland. I'm doing Abia and Vasim's Night of a, what do they call it? Night of a Million quiz shows, which I'm slightly scared by because it's quiz shows of yesteryear and we've got no idea what we're doing. We're just on stage. I imagine they'll humiliate us a little bit. But I'm also doing a panel with Simon Toyne and Brian McGilloway. So love Sterling, love Bloody Scotland. And I'm going to do a panel on the 30th of September in London for Capital Crime. So yeah, it's busy.
I read Brian McGilloway's The Empty Room a few weeks ago, and oh my word, that was fantastic.
I should read some. I've never read any of his books, actually. I'll have to
It
have
was
a
the
look at that
first one
one.
that I'd read, actually, and I absolutely loved it. So yeah,
Oh, cool.
plenty more to read. He's done quite a few. There's a back
Yeah.
catalogue definitely to
Yeah.
read. So yeah, you've got all kinds of plans. Was it ever daunting still doing, live things like this or in person? Do you ever still get nervous about it, or is it just kind of taken in your stride now you do so much of it?
I do. I always get a little sort of flutter of nerves before any event. The worst one I did, this is going to sound like name dropping, but in 2019 when I did TV, my first TV, luckily not live, so it was Sarah Cox show. It's not on anymore. I think it was on Channel 5 at like 8:30 on a Sunday morning, something. But it was recorded, and I was on with Ross Kemp, otherwise known as Grant from EastEnders, and Ricky Wilson of the Kaiser Chief. I was sitting between them on the sofa.
That must have been so much fun.
It was, but I tell you what, before the camera started to roll, I honestly thought I was going to have a heart attack. My heart has never beaten so fast. It was just like the terror. These are like people I've seen on the telly. Sitting between them and being interviewed by Sarah Cox, and the imposter syndrome was strong. Like people have heard of these two. No one's going to know who I am. But they all made me really welcome, and it was really good. And apparently, when you watched it afterwards, you couldn't tell that I was nervous. So that's good. Smaller events I'm quite used to now. I think, like the Glasgow one and stuff, and online events as well. I'm not that nervous, but I think I'll probably be quite nervous before Harrogate because I've wanted to appear at Harrogate for years. I mean, I don't know how many years I've been going to Harrogate, maybe 5 or 6. And I've done the author dinner, but I've never actually appeared on stage. And you'll know if you've been, like when the authors, before it starts, all the audience are sitting there and the authors just sort of stroll down the middle like they're getting married, and then climb the stairs onto the stage and settle down in the armchairs. And they've got headpieces on like Madonna. I will be very nervous for that one because that should be quite a big crowd, and to me it's very prestigious appearing at Harrogate, so I will be nervous before that. But I'm on with Lucy Foley, who's lovely, and I did a panel with her at Bloody Scotland, so that helps. The fact that I know her and I've read her books and stuff, it should be all fine, but I will have a flutter of nerves, I'm sure.
I'm sure you will, but I always think a bit of nerves is a good thing. I do relate to the panicky feeling of your first, not first TV. I've not done TV. I don't think I'd want to, but the first live event that you've just described. That with the thing of thinking you're either going to pass out or throw up on yourself. That was me entirely the first time. So hopefully that gets easier.
It does. You're an old hand at this now, Sam. You've been doing this
online
years.
talking to you. I'm just looking at you, and I know that I've got friends kind of asking questions, and we've all got loads in common of, all the books that we read, and then that's quite settling. But actually in front of people, people, I don't go out the house, people looking at me now. I'll ask you this after we're off camera. I was going to say something, but I won't. So what made you... It's about an event you may or may not be doing, or when you are doing it.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, fairly certain it's something that you're doing. What about you as a reader? Who would you like to go and watch? Who have you been to see? What signed books have you got? From the other side of it.
Yeah.
Do you even have time?
Hey?
Do you even have time to go and kind of see other people's events?
No, I don't really. A good time to do that sort of thing is at crime festivals, because then you're all in the same place. There's maybe some authors that you've never heard talk about their books before. Unfortunately, I missed the Harlan Coben chat when he was at Harrogate. I wish I'd gone to that now, actually, because I've watched quite a lot of his adaptations on Netflix, and I've been listening to the audiobooks of some of his books. And I wish I'd got to like find out a bit more about, you know, how he does what he does. Margaret Atwood is like my favorite author. I heard her give a talk at London Book Fair years and years and years ago, got a copy of my book signed. We weren't allowed to talk to her though, so it was a bit weird. She just kind of just stood there. Somebody gave a little post-it note with your name on, and she just sort of glanced at you and then just, you know.
Is that because there were so many people?
Yeah, it was massive queue, like hundreds. So they just wanted us moving, I guess, which is fair enough. I'd love to hear a more intimate chat with her, maybe. I'm always interested in a Lisa Jewell event or chat. There's this fabulous book. I don't know if you've heard of it. Excuse this, the cover's coming off. The Truth About Lisa Jewell.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
Advertised, but I've not read it.
I've delved into this. I've only got like maybe a quarter left. It's by Will Brooker, who is an academic, and he sort of writes books about, I think he's written about David Bowie, and he just became very interested in Lisa and the way she writes after seeing her at a Polari event, and asked if he could kind of shadow her when she wrote a book. And then they meet up and they have chats. And it's a really interesting insight into the way that Lisa writes. And her books are phenomenally successful, but she's also very honest about the way that her career started on a high with her first book, which was a rom-com, and then her sort of sales dipped down a little bit. And then she'd always had this dark side waiting to come out. And then she started to write psych thrillers, and then gradually, you know, until all of a sudden she's Sunday Times bestseller and New York Times bestseller, and sold 1 million copies of The Family Upstairs. So that I find really interesting, getting that kind of insight into another author's psyche, and, you know, try and work out what it is about her books that makes them so phenomenally successful. That I've got no idea, but I know what she's like as an author, and she's a lovely author. I've met her in person. I may have fangirled slightly the first time that I met her. So
that makes me feel a bit better then. Yeah.
I never too old for fangirl. I fangirled when I met Maggie O'Farrell as well, who I absolutely love. And I just couldn't get the words out, which was just really embarrassing. It was only a few years ago as well.
You were on the first interview. I think it was you, Stuart Gibbon, and David Blake. I think you were the first interview I ever did for the book club.
Oh, wow.
So, and I got really excited and braided my hair so I could have it curly on the day. And the camera that I had was, you can see me in this one. You kind of couldn't really. It was just like this big frizzy bomb and this woman's face you could barely see because my camera was
rubbish. You were quite blurry. Yeah, it was quite hard to make you out. It was not.
That's not such a bad thing.
Definition.
But yeah, it's quite nice to know that I'm not the only one fangirling and showing myself up.
Oh God, most definitely you're not. Most definitely.
So what have you been reading at the moment? Have you found that you've been able to read during the last couple of years?
The last couple of months, I have to admit, I've not read very much because of all of the publicity and whatnot going on around The Guilty Couple. I have read the new Claire Douglas, The Girls Who Disappeared. That's got a fantastic hook, where basically a girl's driving home from a pub with her 3 mates, crashes the car, comes to, and her 3 mates are gone, and they never come back wherever they are, you know. And then 30 years later, is it 30 years, 20 years later, a journalist investigates what happened to the 3 girls. Hugely enjoyed that. Of course, read Lisa Jewell's follow-up to The Family Upstairs, which is The Family Remains. Really enjoyed that as well. The new Catherine Ryan Howard, Runtime, which is kind of a psych thriller set on a horror movie set. I'm a huge fan of her books. What else have I read? I've read the new Claire McIntosh, her new police procedural series, which is set in Wales, but there's one policeman from England and then a female police policewoman from Wales, and there's a little bit of sizzling chemistry going on there, and obviously a dead body. So that's quite exciting to read the start of her new series. What else have I read? For kind of for fun, for winding down, I've mostly been listening to audiobooks by comedians. I loved the Billy Connolly. I loved the Bob Mortimer. Alan Cummings I listened to. Wasn't so keen on the Michael McIntyre, but I think that's because with the others you saw a bit of vulnerability to them, and Michael McIntyre basically just told jokes for most of it. I'm listening to the new Minnie Driver, who is a fantastic writer. You can tell she's written herself, but she's got a wonderful way with words that really draws you in. So yeah, basically I'm just reading proofs that people send me, and then for audiobooks I listen to whatever I want to listen to. So it's a good balance to have.
Well, we never run out of good things to read, that's for sure.
Oh God,
very
no.
Nice.
If I just, if I could move this camera around my office, you would just see books everywhere. More books piled up outside the bathroom, beyond the door, more downstairs, on the stairs, by my bed. I mean, basically, I just need to retire now to stand half a chance of even reading a quarter of all of these books.
Yeah, I've not got a chance.
No.
I've not got a chance. I'll recommend another great book, and I'm going to see if I can reach it. Where is it? Oh no, I've put it on the shelf. In fact, okay, this is the postcard that came with it. The Storytellers by Karen McKinley.
Okay, I've not heard of that.
It has an element of crime to it. It's one of the most stunningly beautiful books. Absolutely loved it, so highly recommend that. I could recommend all sorts that I've got on the shelf behind me, but that's the first one that springs to mind. I have been sent an ARC by an author I've not heard of before. I apologise, I wasn't going to say that on camera, but John Brownlow, 17.
Oh, that name rings a bell, but not the title.
Fantastic. I'm terrible with names. It looks fantastic. I don't know how I got so lucky as to be sent that one. I don't know how I made it onto a list for that, but yeah, that's my next read. So I'm excited. Nice. What do you do when do you ever get a day off?
Actually, I gave myself a day off yesterday because as well as doing all this, I've also maybe foolishly signed up to run 31k in July to raise money for Great Ormond Street Hospital.
Wow.
So, if you've met me in person, you will know I am not made for sport. I am very tall.
Met you in person, so I don't know what that means. But
okay, well, I'm very tall and I'm also quite hefty. I am no gazelle, and also, I'm creeping towards 50. But in lockdown, I did couch to 5k, and I found a love of running, mostly on the treadmill, as a great form of stress relief. But I kind of let it go a bit last year and didn't run very much at all. So this year I saw this challenge and I thought, cool, 31k, that's 1k a day, which doesn't sound very much, but obviously I can't do every day because I've got events and this, that and the other. Yeah. So I started it on the 1st, and I ran on Saturday, and I ran on Friday, and I ran on Saturday, and then on Sunday my shins were sore. So I took the day off, and basically I just lay on the bed because my son steals the living room for his Xbox. I just lay on the bed and just watch telly all day, apart from walking the dog. But yeah, when I have a day off, I'll either just watch telly, or I quite like doing arts and crafts and stuff, whether that's embroidery or painting or pottery, lino carving, all sorts. There probably isn't a craft that I haven't tried. Macrame, that's another one. I just love making things, and unlike books where you're kind of making something to be read and judged, nobody really gets to see my little creations, and I just like making just for the fun of making. So yeah, telly or making stuff is how I relax, and the odd run.
Yeah, I used to do a lot of baking stuff, but I've got to admit that yesterday I needed space on my phone, so I deleted the Couch to 5K app that I haven't used for about 3 years. So yeah, I wanted to put a game on my phone and then it wouldn't load anyway, but I didn't bother putting the other app back. I've got a bad back. I'm not running.
It took me several attempts to finish Couch to 5K. I think I tried it twice and abandoned it before I finally did it all the way through. And even then, I had to repeat quite a lot of runs until I could run for 30 minutes without stopping. I can't run 5K in 30 minutes. I'm really slow, massive plodder, but I can run for like 3/4 of an hour, not 3/4, yeah, 3/4 of an hour. That's the most I've run for without stopping. So, no, it's not bad.
It's only just occurred to me that I never actually saw it through and completed it. So maybe I do need to put that back on my phone.
Well, just get a new phone with more memory and then
That's the plan. That's the plan. I'm such a procrastinator. It takes me so long to decide to do something. Like trying to choose a new phone is a big undertaking.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Somebody said, I wish reading was a full-time job. It is. You just don't get paid for it. That's it. That's the difference.
Wouldn't it be nice? We've all got to wait till retirement.
Absolutely.
I can read as much as we like.
Oh, Mel was under Great Ormond Street for a hearing as a child. So so it's a great charity to be doing something for, obviously. Somebody said, would love to see your office. I have 3 bedrooms, but I need a bigger house and work in a library. So, I mean, offices are, it's nice to have a space. Yeah. Really lucky if you can have a space at home to write in. But I think the kitchen tables is good.
They want a quick look around the office, or they want an office?
They wouldn't mind having a quick look around, but are you happy to do that?
Yeah, I'm going to take it off the stand. I'm going to take it off the stand. Okay, so it's the smallest room in the house, this. So, okay, you're going to have to excuse the mess.
Okay, this is why you won't be seeing my office. Yours isn't messy, mine really is.
It was even worse because I did a massive giveaway for so you can see the cardboard boxes. I bought loads of prizes on my Facebook page. I had like a launch, and luckily I took them all to the post office earlier today. So,
this is the first launch of yours I've missed in a while.
Oh,
the live one, and I couldn't go to the reading party because I had an event that we were doing, but I have got in behind me something that I won at one of yours.
Oh wow! So,
well, you have a lot of books.
Well, there you go. I have loads of books and quite a small office.
So I will show everyone just behind me. There it is. So the Books Welcome bookend that I won at the launch of, I think it was the Her Last Holiday launch.
It could have been, yeah.
I think it was.
I think I started with Strangers when we were in lockdown. Then I did one for Her Last Holiday, and then I did one most recently for The Guilty Couple.
And that's the one that I missed, so it's the one before. So yeah.
I gave away 17 prizes, and I've got, I was inspired by this is going to be for the next one. There'll be a lot more prizes. I was inspired by Mark Edwards, who gives away pens with a torch and a stylus. This has no torch. It says C.L. Taylor on it, and it's got a little stylus thingy for your phone there. So next launch, there'll be tons of these. I've got hundreds of them.
I did win a pen from you at one point years ago, which I'm sure had a torch on it, one of the silver ones.
No, that was, it was a pen with a USB. So you unscrewed the end and it's got a USB in it.
I'm getting confused. I definitely did win one. I'm just getting confused about what it did. It was a while ago.
Loads of people didn't realise.
I don't know if I realised or not. I'm going to have to go and get it in a minute and have a look. It's not in this office. It's in my bedroom. But I've got loads of little things. So I've got kind of I got a bookmark that you sent me, which is like a man holding a book and his feet stick out at the end. Yeah. I've got, you can't, I wonder if I can get this without. This see when my camera's at a wide angle.
Yeah.
So this is my CL Taylor VIP reader candle, but you
Oh
can't
my
see
God,
it
you
because of the
still got
light.
that.
So
Oh.
I'm not burning it. It's staying in its little bag and it lives behind me on the shelf. So I have like little things. So, but this is why this is such a joy for me, because everybody knows how long I've been a fan for. So this is just such a nice way to spend a Monday evening.
It is. It's lovely.
And we're almost out of time. So do you want to give everybody a recap of The Guilty Couple and any other books that you want to show?
All right. So The Guilty Couple, it's out now. For the next couple of weeks anyway. You should be able to find it in Tesco, Asda, Sainsbury's, WH Smith's High Street, Costco, which I've never had to book in Costco before.
Never even considered about Costco books.
Hey?
So never considered Costco.
No, I didn't know Costco did books, but apparently there's a bunch in Costco. And Waterstones, depending what Waterstones you go into, they may have one, they may have a bunch. And and if you manage to get your hands on a first edition, you get this lovely embossing on the board. This is my new favorite thing, embossing on boards. They've done it on each of mine since Sleep, which was my first hardback, and it's different every time, and it's a nice surprise. I never ask them to tell me. I just say surprise me, so that when I open the book, it's genuinely a surprise. So so it's out now. If you haven't read one of my books, I'd suggest you start with this one. Take it on holiday on maybe a Kindle, because this is a hardback, and hopefully you'll read it in a day, lying on a sun lounger, and it'll keep you entertained and keep you guessing.
I did watch the unboxing you did where you discovered the embossing on The Guilty Couple. So that was it's quite nice as a reader to be involved in those moments that mean a lot to the author. I
was nervous, but I think my editor and my marketing person were even more nervous. They said they were watching for micro expressions on my face as I saw it for the first time. I was like, oh my God, imagine if I'd hated it. I would have had to try to hide it, but they would have seen the truth of the horror. Luckily, I really liked it, so it was all good.
But at some point, if you're ever doing it and your phone suddenly drops off the table, we'll know that you're trying to hide your expression. You've got a good team. They know you by now, so I'm sure they put a lot of thought into what would be really nice for you.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Well, thank you so much for spending your Monday evening with us at the UK Crime Book Club.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you to everybody who's come along. There's so many comments and questions that I've not been able to get to all of them, but thank you, everyone. And I hope you'll come back for the next book.
I would love to. Cheers. Thanks, guys, for having me on.